Okay, to my wonderful 6th grade class, let's get into science. And I guess we are working on, infectious diseases. How exciting is that going to be? All right, so we have a few things to do tonight. One is we're going to do science. Don't forget, I've already posted up for our ELA. It'll be down in the corner right-hand side. It says, "Why Tortoise's Shell is Not Smooth." So if you need to listen to that one because we sent you home with the information to read it, make sure you kind of read that over, or even just listen to me reading it, because I just did that a little while ago. Also, don't forget for your model, your 6 vocabulary words for ELA. Don't forget to finish up your 2-column notes. I'm going to do infectious diseases tonight. I'll do the next one tomorrow night. And then also don't forget, you guys have a test on Thursday in social studies. So make sure that you read your notes, you do any of the study guides, and we'll keep going along so we can make sure you have all that situated. Okay, everybody, so let's get to infectious diseases. For those of you who have a book with you, it is on page 140. Those of you who don't, you can just sit back, relax, and just listen. Okay, here we go. Infectious diseases. Before the 20th century, surgery was a risky business. Even if people lived through an operation, they were not out of danger. After the operation, many patients' wounds became infected, and the patients often died. No one knew what caused these infections. In the 1860s, a British surgeon named Joseph Lister hypothesized that microorganisms caused the infections. Before performing an operation, Lister washed his hands and surgical instruments with carbolic acid, a chemical that kills microorganisms. After the surgery, he covered the patient's wounds with bandages dripped in carbolic acid. Lister's results were dramatic. Before he used his new method, about 45% of his surgical patients died from infection. With Lister's new techniques, only 15% died. Page 141. Understanding infectious diseases. Like the infections that Lister observed after surgery, many illnesses such as ear infections and food poisoning are caused by living things that are too small to see without a microscope. Organisms that cause diseases are called pathogens. Diseases that are caused by pathogens are called infectious diseases. An infectious disease is a disease that is caused by a presence of a living thing within the body. When you have an infectious disease, pathogens have gotten inside your body and caused harm. Pathogens make you sick by damaging individual cells, even though you may feel pain throughout your body. For example, when you have strep throat, pathogens have damaged cells in your throat. Before Lister's time, people believed that things like evil spirits or swamp air led to sickness. Several scientists in the late 1800s contributed to the understanding of infectious diseases. In the 1860s, the French scientist Louis Pasteur showed that microorganisms cause certain kinds of diseases. Pasteur also showed that killing the microorganisms could prevent the spread of those diseases. In the 1870s and 1800s, the German physician Robert Koch demonstrated that each infectious disease is caused by a specific kind of pathogen. In other words, one kind of pathogen causes pneumonia, another kind causes chickenpox, and still another kind causes rabies. Actually, that was something that we discussed the other day. 142. Kinds of pathogens. You share Earth with many kinds of organisms. Most of these organisms are harmless, but some can make you sick. Some diseases are caused by multicellular animals such as worms. However, most pathogens can be seen only with a microscope. The 4 major groups of human pathogens are bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protists. Look at Figure 2 to see some examples of pathogens. Bacteria. Bacteria are one-celled microorganisms. They cause a wide variety of diseases, including ear infections, food poisoning, and strep throat. Some bacterial pathogens damage body cells directly. Strep throat is caused by Streptococcus bacteria that invade cells in your throat. Other bacterial pathogens damage cells indirectly by producing a poison or toxin. For example, if the bacteria that causes tetanus got into a wound, they produce a toxin that damages the nervous system. Tetanus is also called lockjaw because the nerve damage can lock the jaw muscle. Viruses. Viruses are tiny particles much smaller than bacteria. Viruses cannot reproduce unless they are inside living cells. The cells are damaged or destroyed in the process, releasing new viruses to infect other cells. Both colds and flus are caused by viruses that invade cells in the respiratory system. There are more than 200 kinds of cold viruses, each of which can give you a sore throat and a runny nose. Fungi. Fungi, which include molds and yeasts, also cause some infectious disease. Fungi grow best in warm, dark, and moist areas. Two examples of fungal diseases are athlete's foot and ringworm. Ugh. Protists. Protists are also a cause of diseases. Malaria, infection of the blood that is common in tropical areas, is one disease caused by protists. Other diseases caused by protists are African sleeping sickness and ambient destiny. I have no idea what that is, but I will definitely look it up for you guys. How pathogens are spread. Like all living things, pathogens need food and a place to live and reproduce. Unfortunately, body may be the right place to meet a pathogen's needs. You can become infected by pathogen in several ways. Pathogens can spread through contact with either an infected person, soil, food, or water, a contaminated object, or an infected animal. Infected people. Pathogens often pass from one person to another through direct physical contact, such as kissing and shaking hands. For example, if you kiss someone who has a cold sore viruses may get into your body. Diseases are also spread through indirect contact with an infected person. For example, when a person with a cold or a flu sneezes, pathogens shoot into the air. Other people may catch a cold or the flu if they inhale those pathogens. Soil, food, and water. Some pathogens occur naturally in the environment. The bacteria that cause botulism, a severe form of food poisoning, lives in soil. Botulism bacteria can produce toxins in foods that have been improperly canned. Some pathogens can contaminate food and water. If people then eat the food or drink the water, they may become sick. Some pathogens that cause severe diarrhea are spread through contaminated food and water. Chloria and dystony are two deadly diseases that spread through food and water. Contaminated objects. We are on page 144. Some pathogens can survive for a time outside a person's body. People can come into contact with pathogens for using objects such as towels or silverware that can be handled by an infected person. Cold and flu can be spread in this way. Tetanus bacteria can enter the body if a person steps onto a contaminated object. Infected animals. If an animal that is infected with certain pathogens bites a person, it can pass the pathogens to the person. People can get rabies, a serious disease that affects the nervous system from the bite of an affected animal, such as a dog or a raccoon. Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever are spread by tick bites. For example, if a deer tick that is carrying Lyme disease bacteria bites a person, that person may get Lyme disease. The protist that causes malaria is transferred by the bites of mosquitoes that live in tropical regions.